Hi, welcome to an overview of the A major scale. First thing to think about when we talk about any major scale in Western music is the fact that it has 7 notes, what you'll hear referred to as diatonic. So the major scale is a diatonic scale, 7 notes, and it starts over in patterns over different octaves, okay? So we're going to learn 2 octaves of the A major scale based in what we call the first position. So another thing to really that I like to stress is where the half and whole steps are. So the pattern of notes in any given scale. So if we look at the major scale, just on the A string, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if we look at that pattern, we'll see there's 2 frets in between the first 2 notes. We call that a whole step. Anytime you have 2 frets, that's what we call a whole step. 2 frets right next to each other is a half step. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is a half step. Whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So in the major scale, the whole steps are between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 5 and 6, 6 and 7. The half steps are between 7 and 8, 3 and 4, and 7 and 8. So half steps between 3 and 4, and 7 and 8, and all the other scale steps are a whole step or 2 frets in between each other. Okay? So that's one way that we start as we learn other scales and modes and stuff like that. These 7-note scales especially, it's very helpful to memorize them in terms of where the half steps and whole steps are. Okay. The other thing I like to stress is counting out the scales and learning intervals. Or scale steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one of the reasons it's very, especially on the guitar, or bass is important, or any string instrument really, is because we have a pattern here. So I could just move it to another key, and as long as I'm playing that same scale or pattern of notes, starting on a different fret, it's still a major scale. It's just a different keys major scale. Okay? So let's look at that scale here. So the first position in A major, it starts on the 5th fret. And so basically we've got the 4th fret through the 7th. We're using 1 finger per fret. Okay? So I'm going to play it through here and I'm going to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. A lot of times I'll use 8 for that as well, especially when I start to sing. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? Another thing to think about as you start to practice this scale is your placement of your thumb. So we want to have our knuckles being in line with each other as much as we can. So for my hand size, I've got my thumb pretty much in the center, right behind my middle finger, in between my 2nd and 3rd finger. So see what happens, like if I have my thumb, a lot of times when we're learning scale, beginning guitar player, as your thumb's way over here, and basically what happens is naturally we'll overemphasize this when I show this to people, but as I move my thumb, it's like naturally my fingers want to come off the neck. You know what I mean? So just having your hand in a good placement is going to keep your fingers a lot closer to the neck, which is, it's hard at first. It's fairly, it's pretty stressful, but once you build up the hand strength and muscle strength there, it's in the long run, it's a much more efficient and, way of playing the guitar, and will cause you less pain as you once you build up that muscle strength. So the next thing I like to do is play the scale with the note names as well. So A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Okay. A, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, E, A, G sharp, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, E, A. Okay? Next thing, alternate picking. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So I do all alternate picking on this scale for myself. And what else? Scale and octaves. So once you start to get better, build up that muscle strength, and you're real comfortable playing the scale. A good way to start learning the fretboard is doing this scale in octaves. So we're going to play all the subsequent notes from each octave. So I'm doing 2 1s, 2 2s, the 2 3s, the 2 4s, the 2 5s, 2 6s, 2 7s, 2 8s. So we're playing the notes at the same time. So here's one octave, right? Here's the second octave together. Okay? Alright. So feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and check back to follow through on the rest of the scale positions.